I'm Patrick Bailey with IQlist.com. Today is April 10th, 2022, and in this video I'll be going over OpenScad Modifiers. Okay, a quick shout out to Britt Scott, who posted on one of my last videos, I've only watched some of your OpenScad videos. There's a reason you don't use modifier characters for debugging. There is a reason. I was unaware of them, so thanks for informing me about that. I had to go look them up for a bit. It took me a little bit to absorb them all, and I went, oh, these are really great. It solves a lot of problems, so I'm going to go over it, but this is also a good example of, not everyone knows everything, so it's really nice, and this is beautifully worded. We sometimes we live in an age where someone's like, hey, dumb guy, why don't you know X? Rather than going, hey, have you ever explored this? And this is, a beautiful example of like a really constructive criticism. Why don't you use these things? Beautifully written, lovely. And sometimes not everyone knows everything all the time, and I'm a very good example of that. But I love learning this stuff. So let's go over what they are, and they're really great. They're really useful in OpenScad, and I wish I knew about them earlier because I would have used them a lot. So one thing in OpenScad that has always driven me a little nuts is it would be nice, I love using the colors because I can kind of differentiate things, but wouldn't it be nice to make them transparent? And I haven't found a way to make the color transparent that I've seen anywhere, but with these modifiers you can, but you can't adjust the color. So there's some really different cool things about this. So there's 4 modifiers, and I'll put a link in the show notes to this page where it goes over in detail of the modifiers, and we'll kind of go one by one and give some examples. So first of all, there's the background modifier, which is just a percentage sign. So you can apply that to anything. So we'll kind of use the example they have. I actually made this over here. So if I did this simple thing, we can see here they're making this cylinder, and they're putting 2 different cylinders through it and doing a difference and deleting everything inside. Now if you do the difference here, the ignore, sorry, not the difference, the ignore, let me check it again. The ignore, the background modifier, ignore. Okay, so we'll do that. If I do ignore, what it's going to do is it'll take whatever is there, and it's going to do it this gray transparent see-through, but now you can see it's actually not being applied. So I don't think, now there's more tools. I don't think I would use this particular one very often, but it is nice, it is interesting. And if I do a render of it, but if I do a render, it's gone. It's not going to use that. So you can kind of see it here, but you can see it's not being applied, but if I render it, it's gone. But also these things can be applied at any level, so if I do them up here, I'm pretty sure this would work. This should just make everything gone. So everything's, well, in this case, it actually is completed, but then it's removed. So interesting way to look at things. But when you render it, it's gone. I take that back. There might be a use for this, because maybe you want to do some kind of model near another model that's going to help you adjust visually what you're doing, but you don't actually want to render it. Okay, I take it back. There's a good use for this. However, there is a little snag. So I will bring my example here. I'm working on some stamps right now, and there'll be some videos on that coming up, because there's a little bit of a snag. So here is this stamp handle right here, which is this blue thing. Now, if I come here and I say, what's the word? Ignore this thing, nothing happens. However, if I render it, it disappears. What is happening is because I came down here and I said make it blue, the blue seems to override that. So if I, remove the blue real quick, now it's working. So if you try to apply any custom color to it, not going to work. Even at this point where we have this union of everything, let me see, I didn't try this. If I do this and say ignore everything, see, you don't visually see it because I use these extra colors. So to me, that's probably a little bit of a bug that probably could be fixed, but when I render it, they disappear. But also, maybe it's not a bug. Maybe you really, maybe it's not a bug. Maybe you really want these colors and you want to see it there. Huh. A bug or a feature. So if you did not apply colors, it'll make everything transparent gray, which has its uses. But otherwise, if you apply colors, it'll keep it a solid color but not render it. Maybe that has its uses. Maybe. I take that back. Maybe it's a feature, not a bug. I'd rather have both. Okay, the next one, you come down here and you have a pound sign. Now this is the one I'm going to use all the time, which forces everything to have it still applies it, but it will have a transparent background. So if we go down here, okay. So this is a good example. So there's my stamp. Oh, let me get rid of this. Okay, now I'll put a pound sign in front of it. It'll make it transparent. Now this is useful. It'd be nice if it used the color, or you could apply a color, but you know, fine. Really useful because I can come over here. Let me make these stamps both transparent. Now I can kind of see how far that blue is going into it. I could have used that. That's probably why he was making that point, saying, why aren't you using this? Because you can see exactly where it's going in, because I was doing some other things to kind of see how far it was going in. I was moving it around the board. I don't need to do that anymore, so very useful tip, and I'm going to use this a lot. Also, if I render it, it's going to render everything. But I can also apply it to, you know, a higher up in the tree in a union, and we should. Well, isn't that interesting? Okay, I didn't try this before. It didn't quite make it transparent to the whole thing because there's different colors being applied. Let me take the colors out real quick. I bet you. Okay, maybe this is a similar thing where on a single basis it's working. Okay, now we're all yellow. If I do this union here. No, I guess the union itself is doing something different. Okay, interesting. But otherwise it's working. It's working on the module level, so I don't know. It's kind of strange. Okay, the next one, let's see. So that one I can use a lot. The next one is really good. It's ignore the rest of the design. I could see using this one too. So what you can do is you can come into a part of your design, like let's say I want to focus on that stamp. There's an issue with the stamp and I want to focus on it and wipe everything out. I can just put an exclamation point in front of it and boom, everything's gone, although it will still oh, maybe I thought it would, oh, I guess it does, I thought it would render. Okay, ignore, sorry, okay, I was wrong. I thought it was going to render, but I guess I was wrong about that. I'm glad I tested. So I can ignore everything else. I think, I don't know if you can do them one at a time. No, you can't. So that would make sense because you're only, whatever's first wins. So that makes sense because you don't want to be strange to only include a few things. Okay, but I can come up here. I think I should be able to apply it on the union level, which in my case would change nothing. Yeah, okay, perfect. Well, is it perfect? Let me make a cube outside of this just to test that theory. Does it really work on the union? Okay, so there's a cube. Will it work on the union? Yes, okay. As I expected, good, perfect. Okay, and then the last one, disable. Let's go down here. And it basically says, ignore this entire subtree. And you know, I can come in here and say, turn this into quotes with just that. I'm used to that as a programmer, and now it goes away. So I'm used to doing that. But okay, okay, I take that. I'm thinking in my mind. It is better than I thought. I can come down here and say disable. Same thing. I can come down here and say just disable this part. I can disable multiple parts, right? Now if I disable it, I don't think it's going to render. Nope, won't render. Okay. You know, I didn't think I would use this disable because I would just do that by my coding habit. But it is useful because I can come up here. Oh, let's go make that cube again. Cube. Boom. Okay. I can come up here and say disable this union, where I cannot do that. I would be forced to do that. That's a lot of keystrokes, and that works. Or, you know, the really crazy one is just to, well, I think I can. Is there a comment the whole thing out? Is there a button for that? Don't know. I could do this, you know. That's a lot of typing. Do every single one. I'm not gonna do that. But there, negate. Okay, I take that back. Now that I tried it, I'm like, I would use that. I would use that. So there's the 4. We got the, you know, ignore. You ignore it, which will not. Let's try it again. You got, just to show, you got the ignore, which will make it transparent gray if it's not colored. But, and also it won't render it. Boom. But I have a color, so it's not going to do it. Then there's the one, so there's ignore, then there's transparent pink, which I see using a lot. I've been using it today as I've been trying to make these stamps. And then there's also ignore, focus on this, ignore everything else, very useful. And then disable, okay. And I can see myself probably using all 4. Definitely the transparent one, this one where, okay, what's a better way to call it? What do they call it? Okay. Debug modifier, okay. Just try, I'll call it transparent pink. Oop, wrong guy. I can see using that all the time. All the time. The ignore everything else, I can see that using that some of the time. Disabling, I can see using that some of the time. But this one I'll probably use 5 times more than any of the other ones. But I definitely see a use for every single one. I didn't think the ignore one I would like, but I can see cases for it. So there's the modifiers, very useful. It's going to speed up your, you know, debugging time big time. Very, very useful. So thanks. Let me make sure I get your name correct again. Britt Scott, thanks for showing that, pointing that out. And as always, point anything out to me. You see anything that I'm doing wrong or incorrect or have an idea, I might just not be aware of it. So, so with that, let's wrap up with this reminder. You know, 3D printing is an adventure that you're on. You can develop your own skills, your knowledge, and take this in so many ways. You can make a business out of this. You can teach others, and you can make amazing designs. So, engineer on. I'm pretty excited about these stamps I've been working on. Lots of issues, but I'm slowly overcoming them to get something that is worthwhile, that I can share and show off. In the meantime, my next video should be going over how to make corgi crossings, how to make the corgi crossing sign I made. I really need to make a T-Rex version of it. I'm pretty excited about these stamps I've been working on. Lots of issues, but I'm slowly overcoming them to get something that is worthwhile, that I can share and show off. In the meantime, my next video should be going over how to make the corgi crossing sign that I recently made, and going over all the OpenScad details. That makes me think I really need to make a T-Rex version of it and post it.